If you're thinking of making a career change, you're in the right place. I'm Yesham Nicholson, and Your Big Career Move is your opportunity to listen to stories from ordinary people who've made extraordinary career changes. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and if you feel inspired to make your own career change, but you're not quite sure where to start, why not buy my book, Ready to Quit Your Job, or join my next career coaching program, both of which you can find at yescareercoaching.com. Today I'm joined by Ugo, and I can't wait to hear your story. I'm really delighted that you've agreed to be here today. Thank you so much. Can we go straight into what you were doing before your big career change?
Yeah, so I started my career as a real estate investment banker with Bank of America Merrill Lynch BAML. Spent over 10 years doing that. So have an MBA in finance, followed a very formal finance route, and then made a career switch about 15 years ago. So that's the highlight.
Yeah, and can you talk to us about how all of this change came about? Because I know that you didn't just change your career, you changed pretty much your whole life and your environment and everything that you do.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts a little bit of background in that I'm Nigerian by birth and background. Grew up, born in Nigeria. We moved as a family to New Jersey and went to Rutgers undergrad and then NYU for grad school. And I think at some point I started realizing my life was in this like 50-mile radius. And while I wanted to pursue banking, I thought, maybe not go the traditional route to go to Wall Street. Was there a way for me to have a still a robust banking career, but outside of New York? And Bank of America Merrill Lynch is headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina. So that was very appealing to me for whatever reasons, just to go someplace I had never been and to shake things up. And maybe that's kind of where things started for me. So followed in that career path, had a great time at the bank, loved what I did. I was very specialized into real estate finance. And so in terms of a skill set, it was great experience and exposure because everything else is kind of parked under operating companies, whereas real estate is its own separate or different animal. So got a lot of skills and training in that. Along the way, started buying property, doing some flips, started taking some interior design classes. I was very passionate and grew very excited about the ability to turn properties around and going from the corporate where we're supporting large owners of real estate and financing them and doing these huge mega deal portfolio size deals. I personally started getting really interested about interior decorating and fixing up properties and converting them. And so I had that full skill set. And after about 10 or so plus years, I was very ready to leave the bank. I thought I was living in DC at that time, thought I would leave the bank, but pursue doing more development, small off opportunities. As it turned out, I had a friend who went to work for a pretty prominent architect. He was based in London. Had a New York office. And I kind of pitched to come on board as his in-house interior designer. He was more interested in my finance background. And I wasn't particularly looking to leave GC, but I was ready to do something different. And so that was kind of what gave me, I think, the real courage to step out was this opportunity. And I decided to take it. And then kind of it built off of that. It was based in London. So again, hadn't been thinking about leaving DC, but oh, by the way, why not? Why not try? And there was a lot of angst with that. I'm not going to lie, but I thought, do it. If you don't like it, you can pick up your life as you left it. DC will still be there. My car was there. My house was there. My family was there. But I was single and really thought, why not? And moved to Europe, moved to London on a 2-year visa. While you're there, make sure you see as much of Europe as you want, because if it doesn't work out, at least you'll say you tried.
Yeah. Had you been to Europe before?
I had been, yeah, I had been to a smattering of places, but felt, what, the visa, that initial visa was for 2 years. So I felt like, while you're on the ground there, just make the most of it, right? Don't leave with the regrets. That was what I think gave me the courage. And I remember distinctly saying to myself, go, you'll be proud of yourself for doing it. And I said, okay, I'll do it.
And how long ago is that now?
So that was 15 years ago, and worked for him for a couple years, and it was a great opportunity. But while in London, I think number one, I hit the ground loving London, so that was what started it. And number two, I just recognized, given my real estate background, given the fact that I bought and sold property, um, in the UK, nobody is representing the buyer in most real estate transactions the way we're used to in the States. So, in America, agents are licensed and you have an agent representing the buyer and the seller. So, coming over here blew my mind that nobody was representing the buyer, um, often on the most important and expensive transaction of their life. It's like, how does that work? And so I saw an opportunity, and that's what then led to what I do now.
So, I mean, there's a big difference, isn't there, between seeing an opportunity and thinking, oh, well, that might be quite nice to do, and actually seizing it. What was it? What were the, I don't know, what were the skill sets or what were the personality traits do you think that you possess that made you go, I'm just going to do this?
I think naivete, number one. So there's an element of the unknown and having a very rose-colored version of it, right? So it's turned out to be so much harder than I thought. And probably if I knew how hard, I might not have done it. I would have stayed in the safety net of being employed. I think it was, again, maybe just, I felt like almost my entire skill set was leading me to this opportunity, right? So I had the analytical skills of having been a banker. I had bought and sold for myself. I had a smattering of properties as a landlord. And I had also had received really good service working with the buying agent, right? And so I felt like there was a gap in the market here, and that I was uniquely qualified. London is particularly a very global international city. We have a lot of people buying from all around the world. So I felt like, oh, okay, well, I know Americans and I know some Nigerians and they're buying in London and I can help them. And if they buy and they need, it's an investment property, well, I've been a landlord, so I can help them manage the property. And if it needs to be fixed up, well, I've done that too, so I can help them. That really was the framework in which I decided to do this, and had some savings. And I did ask myself, when it was kind of this crossroads of leaving the architectural firm, do I go back to the States? And I remember asking myself, is loving a place reason enough to stay? And the answer was yes. And so I said, right, then figure it out, like make it work. And at that point, yeah, I was really loving London culturally, internationally, globally. I arrived here. I was like, where have you been my whole life? Like, this is me. I'm a cosmopolitan girl. I'm a, citizen of the world. And London just felt like it so suited and matched me. And hopefully that's some of the energy I bring.
Yeah,
13 years on, yeah, 15 years
yeah.
on.
Definitely. Well, I mean, your passion for London comes through, and obviously you have your YouTube channel, which I've been binge watching, which is really fascinating. I think, especially for somebody, if you don't know London very well, and I live not far from London. I've been to London, hundreds of times probably over my life, but it's really fun watching your videos and discovering things about London that I didn't even know. So is the YouTube like a passion project that helps to prop up your business, or how do they work in tandem?
It is, but I think honestly, the reality was I was attending, part of Keller Williams. I was attending a real estate conference in 2019, I think, with Keller Williams, and it was on social media and particularly on YouTube. And one of the things it explained was, Google's the number one search engine, and YouTube is number two, owned by Google. And while I was on social media at that point, the light bulb or the aha moment was, hey, look, most other platforms, you have to grow your universe big enough, right? And hope somebody in that universe wants what you're selling. So the number of followers, likes, all that stuff. Whereas in YouTube, like Google, it's a search engine, which means that somebody is searching for that thing and then you get to be found. So it's a real shift in that, okay, I don't have to make that universe so big, but I have to make the content desirable such that if somebody is looking for that thing, they find me. So that became that, like, oh, I get it. And so, invested in some training and some, platforms, and, got on some of these online courses and joined these community groups. But it really became my commitment to myself that, and again, being in London here, and maybe being American, I think Americans are often further along in promoting and marketing and things like that. So you get to be like a big fish in a small pond here. There weren't a lot of people doing YouTube. And so I said, look, if I can put out this content, not just about the property market, because nobody wants to, see house tours every day, especially if you're not looking for a house tour, but London is such an incredible city. And when you're buying a property, you're not just buying the house, you're buying the lifestyle, right? You're buying the community, you're buying the city. So if I could put out content that spoke to that, then hopefully as people search for that thing, they will land on me. And that has proven to be, yeah, my number one lead generation source is YouTube, because of people searching, whether it's Americans buying in London, or how to invest in a farm property in London, or whatever those keywords are. We're intentional about that. But sometimes, and my admin supports and helps create some of that content. We did something on Easter, and it was just these wonderful things to do at Easter with the kids. And I was like, I want to do all of that. It's fun to constantly be discovering and to showcase that for people as well.
Yeah. And do people come to you and go, hey, Ugo, I've got a great idea for a show?
No, not enough, but please do, because we do want to make content that's relevant.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of our clients have said, actually, what would be particularly helpful? Sometimes we're in these Facebook groups and people are asking questions. We did something recently on, pet friendly, places to go with the dogs, which London is an incredibly dog friendly city. Um, and we can highlight that stuff because we're kind of got our ear to the ground, trying to listen to what people are asking for. People also often start with renting first. And I said, you know what, we need just kind of a comprehensive step-by-step video on, if you're moving, what are the pitfalls? What do you need to think about? I thought I had done it, but then realized, oh, I actually don't have that clear, 10-minute video that'll explain that. So yeah, we welcome suggestions because we want it to be relevant for people who are searching.
Yeah, fun. Well, and it's fun for you to keep it fresh and having
Always
new
need
ideas all the
ideas.
time. Yeah, it's awesome.
Always
You
need.
said earlier that it was the naivety that was probably one of the best things that helped you to go from being employed to being self-employed. How did you overcome the challenges that self-employment threw at you? What was your did you have a support network? What
100%.
was,
And you cover this, I'm sure, with your, the other people come on your show. So the first couple of years were really a hard grind because I like to say you don't know what you don't know. Okay. And so while I knew how to put together a transaction. What I didn't know was how to grow a business, right? And things like mindset, and picking yourself up off of defeat or disappointment, because having been raised by Nigerian parents, it's like you just do one of five approved professions, and you don't deviate, and you just get that good job and you ride it down into the sunset and you're getting promoted. Why would you ever get off that track, right? And make it more risky and bumbling along. And so when adversity comes, I think you don't know how to handle it, right? And you're disappointed and you wallow in it, because I think the traditional narrative is, well, everything should just keep going fine as long as you do the right things. Whereas a couple of years doing it and not having level success, I decided to join Keller Williams, which is, a brokerage that many Americans will be familiar with. And one of the reason I joined was they really helped and focused, and they said, we're here to help train and support agents grow their business, right? Not just be a real estate agent, but to grow their business. And that was very appealing to me because, as I said, you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know how to be a business owner. I knew how to get a deal done once I had the client, but be intentional about lead generating, marketing, and as I said, mindset, right? One of the quotes is, your business only grows to the extent that you do. So you have to be constantly in a space, for me, of learning, right? And receiving and recognizing, actually, oh, by the way, failure is part of the journey, if you want to call it failure, right? People say fail forward, and it's only failure if you learn nothing from it. So you start shifting your mindset, like this is part of the game, right? You're gonna lose, not, you say Coca-Cola still advertises. Why? Because if you're not pouring into it, people will forget you. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so I gotta make that part of the daily grind, right? That's not the fun part. I just want to sell pretty houses,
Yeah.
but that is part of the game, right? Oh, part of the game is, how do you start your day? What's your morning routine? How intentional are you? What are your goal setting? What are you trying to achieve? And then let's back into it to the steps you need to do. And all of that I had to learn, but actually I had to get on the path of constant learning, is what I would say. So 100% it starts with getting access to people who are supportive of that, supportive of learning, are going to help you and guide you. And I think I went into it, and I remember again saying, I'm going to do everything somebody tells me to do until it doesn't work for me. So I'm just going to be completely in this mindset of receiving and learning. But actually, that's quite in line with when I moved to London. I said, I say no to nothing, right? If you're inviting me, I'm going to go, right? Like whether it's cultural event and this, and turns out that's what I absolutely fell in love with, was the art scene here, the African art scene here, the restaurant, the food scene, because I've just always had that sense of adventure, but leave yourself open and see what happens.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. You mentioned your parents earlier, and I love talking to people about how their parents influence their
Mhm.
careers. I talk about it quite a lot in my book about how, we're shaped, whether we realize it or not, but we are shaped by what our parents say to us when we're kids, the example they set, what their expectations are from us. And I know that, like you said, Nigerian families. I was speaking to an Indian guy the other day, and it's very similar there. If you're not an accountant, a doctor, a lawyer, then don't even bother. Don't even bother. So you're clearly breaking that mold. So I'm curious to know what your family think of what you're doing now.
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's such a great question. Number one, uh, unfortunately, I lost my mother last year, but
I'm
in
sorry about that.
honoring her, thank you. The people who came out, and my mother was like the fiercest, unbelievable person, right? So she left, married very young in Nigeria, had all of us before the, like, 4 children within 5 years, right? So there's 5 year gap between four of us. Um, Moved to America, didn't have a high school diploma. My father was, the pharmacist and educated. Excuse me. Um, got her GED the year before my oldest brother did. Went on to college, got her accountancy degree, and she was just a hustler, right? So she was raising us, but then was doing, some business deals back and forth, buying cosmetics and from America, selling it in Nigeria, blah 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 blah. And then she started buying real estate, right? So she encouraged my father, after many years of doing the corporate pharmaceutical route, to open a pharmacy. And it was the first Black owned pharmacy in Somerset County, New Jersey. And that was because of her. And she would, run the shop in the front. My father was in the back doing the pharmacy work. And people would come and sit and engage and just have a conversation. And I worked in the pharmacy for a couple years while I was in college, and but along the way she then continued to build and buy and grow, and things would fail and she'd pick herself up again. And one property, she bought built a 3 store plaza in Somerset, New Jersey. It burned. She did it again. I mean, it's
Wow.
like, who does that? Like who has the stomach? And she did. And
Tenacity.
yeah, and such tenacity. But along the way, our home was always open, right? Our Nigerian community grew in Somerset, New Jersey because of my parents, right? And we went to Catholic school. We were the only Black family, and we would go to church, and she would wear traditional outfits. And I said, we just, you just wanted to die and swallow, the ground to swallow you up. And she's singing, and she wanted us to stand out and be proud of that. And again, as you get older, you so much appreciate that. and the legacy she built for us in one generation. Somebody who had nothing, to build that, to leave that for us. And so when she passed, the people were like, oh, no, 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 we stayed at your house in 1980 something. And when I was going through a divorce, your mother helped me and she went with me, and that heart of service, I think, is so much what she also gave us. And yeah, being a mom and a hustler and a devoted wife and juggling it all through the failures, through the successes. Um, and my father's just sweet, and I don't want to. I don't want to make think like he's not relevant. Like, he's super sweet. He's cute. And he's still with us. God bless him. So yeah. So that was what my parents gave me.
I can see you getting emotional, and our parents have that effect on us, don't they?
Mhm.
Um, if you had to summarize in one sentence how your mum has impacted your career, what would you say?
Um, Sentence. I don't know if there is one sentence, but honestly, as you said, the word tenacious, tenacity, um, fearlessness. She was willing to try. I think she was willing to try and fail and cry through those tears, pick up and keep going. So I think that's absolutely what she has left me as a legacy. And we're just so grateful. And it left us inheritance. I mean, it's unreal. It's just in one lifetime, the possibilities, I think, is incredible.
Do you know, I think that's the beautiful thing about America is that I love hearing these stories of people who arrived at Ellis Island or wherever with literally just the bag, the one bag, and managed to build lives for themselves beyond their wildest dreams. And I think that's why probably America is this country full of entrepreneurs and people who are just wanting to do something awesome.
Absolutely.
More than a lot of countries in the world, probably. So it's really, I don't know, I love, I'm a bit sad, but when I went to Ellis Island, I was like, this is absolutely fascinating, you know,
Stands for it. Absolutely.
hearing
Yeah,
these stories. It's incredible.
I think so. Yeah, I know. And you're right. I think America, and I've been able to compare, not an apples to apples comparison, because
Mm.
coming over to London, I've been an entrepreneur and worked for a small company versus the corporate. But I do think there is a mentality that you do embrace in America of we love the rags to riches story, right? So we absolutely love people who pull themselves up from their bootstraps and the industrial barons and things like that. That is the legacy of America, that you can start from practically nothing, and build to whatever. And hopefully that's what I'm trying to do a version of here in the UK, is also um, entrepreneurial and hopefully I don't know, revolutionary, but certainly bringing some of what we do in the States abroad to expand and offer a service.
In this journey that, you know, and it's obviously been a lot of change that you've experienced over the last 15 years or so, what's the main thing that you've learned about yourself?
Well, I think I've learned I'm definitely adaptable, and I also am willing to try different things. I think, the older we get, perhaps the safer we sometimes play things. But I think I've learned that I love life. I love what I do. I feel a sense of gratitude for having the opportunities I have, but also don't want to squander it, right? So you want to maximize your full potential. So earlier this year, I launched an online platform, of course, and it's to try to train other people how to be buying agents. So I think what I've learned is keep going and keep reinventing, because there's opportunities and growth, and there's kind of beauty on the other side of it. So through all the challenges and the struggles and things like that, yeah, life is good.
What does success mean to you?
Success means to me, I think, having the version of life that you want, right? So it's the freedom to make the daily choices you want, the freedom to come and go as you want, and that the people you love and care about are taken care of. So I think for me, success is, yeah, all of those things, maximizing your God-given talents, that is also success for me.
Yeah, definitely. And if I'd asked you the same question 10, 15 years ago, would you have given me a similar answer?
Um, it's probably would have been more formulaic, like, marry, kids, that, more um, the trappings, if you will, versus more of this ethereal concept of success. Plus, I think it's very individualistic. I think you recognize now that not everybody, no two people's definition of success will likely be the same if you allow them to really be honest with themselves. So, yeah, it would be different, definitely.
I wonder, I mean, I'm just speculating. I just wonder, because you must meet so many fascinating people from all walks of life and certainly from all parts of the world, London being such an international community. Do you get, I guess on some level, you must be influenced by all these different people that you're surrounded by and that you work with. Like, how has that shaped you?
Well, I'd like to say that when people, number one, move to a different country, there's an element of self-selection, right? You're already demonstrating that you're willing to go outside of the bubble compared to somebody, not wrongly, but somebody whole life is maybe within a 1 or 2 mile radius, and that continuity and that safety is what they value, right? Like I hear, there's different life different things we value in life, right? Some people absolutely value the safety net element of it. Some people value adventure and the variety of life. So by virtue of, as an adult, moving to a foreign place, you're already kind of self-selecting yourself, or so, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely, that shapes you, because I think you then end up with probably like-minded people who are more, have a broader sense of the world, right? I like to say, I don't know, the Brits really need a new best friend, right? Because they grew up here, like they've got their community. So expats will generally, I find, gravitate toward each other, because you know what it's like to move to a foreign country. You probably have a heart that's a bit more sensitive and appreciative of somebody new and trying to make their way and everything else, which again is where I feel like I really specialize in working with international buyers, because we say it's not just about the physical home. It's about, what does this move mean to you?
Yeah.
So we try to, I say I speak Americanese, so I can help people understand the difference between America and moving here. But you have a sensitivity, I think, to working with people where, relocating their family, right? And it's not a small thing. And the things that make them feel most comforted is to have somebody who's going to take care of the additional things, such as, well, your utilities and figuring it out, or schools, or navigating, or, I worked with somebody one time, and he was coming ahead of his wife. And I asked him, what's the most important thing about this move? He's like, when she gets here, she feels like I did a good job. And that helped me understand I needed to include her, right? I needed to make sure she was part of the process, even though she was in New Jersey and she wasn't going to be able to get over here, and she was leaving it to him. So I think, yeah, you just really try to have a more open mind and sensitivity to the challenges of somebody relocating into a foreign country, and what that means for them.
Yeah. And I think that probably is partly what makes you stand out from the crowd, that you come from a place of empathy. You know how it feels to arrive in a new land and what is going to be. Well, I just love the fact that you asked this client what was important to him, what was the most important thing. I did a small stint. We lived in Sydney, Australia for a while, and I did a small stint as a relocation agent, which is obviously not buying properties, but finding properties for them to live in. And I mean, I absolutely loved it because I got to meet people from all over the world and just, yeah,
Oh,
don't know, you get a really lovely insight into human psychology, what is important to
you do.
them. Yeah.
You do, and what drives that move. And worked with a couple in their 70s last year who found me off of YouTube, and she'd come into some inheritance, and and meanwhile they'd been coming to London for 25 years, staying in the same hotel, and then deciding to have it as a base, right, and a gateway to Europe. And so you meet. I like to say the people we collect along the way, right? And that's really being in roles like this, and maybe your role where you get to speak to so many people from around the globe and stuff. there's a beauty of the humanity of it, and also hearing other people's stories, which is wonderful. And also they're honoring, I see it as such a true honor to be chosen to be part of this chapter of somebody's life, right? So I take it's almost, sacred, right? Like they're choosing you to help them find their home, right? And some people can take it as, oh, I'm buying for somebody, but it's like, no, I'm a part of the chapter of their life. And hopefully we start as clients and but we end as friends. And for most of my clients, that turns out to be the case. Which is why, again, I feel that it's so important that we help more people be buying agents, given the opportunity to serve and help people, especially in these global cities like London. And so that's why I've created the Buyer Agency Academy. So yeah, that's part of it.
Wonderful. I love that it's coming from such a special place. All this stuff that you're creating, that you're wanting to help, and yeah, I really love that. If somebody's listening to this thinking, well, sounds like you guys got it all sorted, it sounds like it was pretty easy,
Laugh
maybe
out
I could follow suit. What's
loud.
your top advice to somebody that's maybe in employment and would love to go self-employed? What's your top advice to them?
I have to say, you just have to do it and recognize that failure is part of the journey. I'll add one more thing, especially about you too, because in 2019, 2020, through COVID and everything, I had face cancer, and it was a really tough period of time for me, and my face did not look great, really. But one thing you recognize, especially with social media, so many people so nervous about it, is that you get so caught up in being perfect and having everything figured out. And part of what I learned was, people don't care. They care about, you know, the content and what you're putting out. So if you're really putting out something you believe in and you have that heart of service, what you look like, what your face looks like, with these videos. And some I can't even go back and watch it, but you know, because of what it meant for me emotionally. But I'm proud of myself for having done that. And I think is to try to tell people to get out of your own way, because we'll put up a lot of reasons and excuses and barriers and as we say, limiting beliefs. But the journey's not going to be easy. But you want to look back and say at least you tried. And even today, I challenge myself, because when I'm not having success, I'm like, have you really done everything you're supposed to do? And the answer is always no, which means there's more to do. So get out there and do it. So yeah.
What do you hope you'll be doing in 10 years' time?
I hope I will have a balance where I'm not working so hard in the business. I love to travel, so I would love to be spending, weeks and months at a time, other places around the world, the people you love and care about, and making sure you're also supporting the causes you care about. I feel very passionate about causes supporting women, people of color, and minorities, because I think we're so, underrepresented in so many professions, and in real estate is particularly one of them. So you want to be an inspiration to others, and then hopefully, yeah, get up on stage, talk to people, encourage them, but also have a life that's a little bit more in balance of you don't ever retire, and I don't think anybody should to seek to retire, but I think you want to get to choose the work you want to do that's fulfilling. And renovating some pretty houses along the way as well. That'll be fun.
That sounds like where the journey began for you, wasn't it? Making houses pretty, which sounds a bit fluffy, but essentially I guess that's what it boils down to, isn't it? It's the love of
Right.
property and the
Oh,
love
yes,
of the
right. Yeah,
aesthetic.
yeah. And I think whatever profession you're doing, you can tie it into something deeper, right? Like I remember thinking, our homes are our sanctuaries. So what we come home to is so important, right? And if your house isn't cluttered and a mess, you're probably setting off, energy vibes that you don't want, right? Versus, I remember the color I picked for my bedroom in DC, and I was like, I love waking up to this color. Like it is that thing, right? So if you can, and that's my world that I know that I can help people do well in. But whatever your world and that that you're passionate about, think of all the ways you can help enhance the experience, right? So it's not just an X and O's type of thing, but I'm sure you can have a USP element that comes from a different space that helps elevate the service level, the quality, such that people really walk away feeling good about having worked with you versus anybody else.
Yeah. Do you think you'll ever leave London?
No, I think London will be absolutely a base for me. The weather is a disaster, I have to say. And so today we have, high of 70 degrees for those, I don't even know what that is in Celsius, 17,
About
18.
17 or 18, yeah.
I mean,
Pretty
come on.
cold for this time of year.
We're in July, come on. So it is not the winters that bother me, it's the summer. So yeah, but as a base is fantastic. So, go off to Greece or Italy or something, or Africa, and spend a couple of weeks or months and get your heat, because London does not promise to deliver you a summer as we know it. So, but I love it for all the other reasons.
Mm. Oh, I'm so grateful that you took time to speak to me today. I think what you're doing is amazing. I think your energy is amazing. I think the fact that you're running this business despite all the odds and all the obstacles is awesome. So thank you so much for sharing this. Hopefully it will inspire other people to follow suit.
Thank you, and thank you for giving entrepreneurs and other people platforms to tell their story, and hopefully to inspire others, because it does take people sharing their stories, I think, to hopefully land for somebody on a particular day. So thank you for having me.
Well, I think it's people like you who can inspire people to get out of jobs that they're just not enjoying, or they're not aligned with their values, or they're not using their skills or their passions. People like you are the perfect example that you can make it work. So
Thank
you just need a bit of
you.
tenacity. I think tenacity is the word of
Mm,
this interview, isn't it? So
mm, very much so. Thank you so
thanks
much.
again. Take
Uh,
care.